Thanks for joining me on another nap and a story, or story and a nap. I don't know which is it called. But I wanted to show you before we got onto a story, which is going to be about the craziest night in the woods that I ever had. Just absolutely nuts with everything that happened. In fact, the stream of events is so unbelievable that I wrote it in my Sticks and Stones book and genuinely thought that people wouldn't believe me when I mentioned all the things that happened in that story. But I'll tell you the story firsthand after I get done showing you this. So you're used to seeing my normal KnapEasy spawn. And of course, if you haven't figured out what KnapEasy is yet, you're going to want to check that out. You can actually just go to KnapEasy.com. It'll send you a redirect right to the Hunt Primitive website on the page where you can buy it. Okay. Then now what we've got is what I'm calling and introducing to you guys, which is going to be available right now, which is going to be the KnapEasy Arrowhead Minis. Okay, so here's the standard size, and then here's the mini, and you can see the thickness difference and stuff like that. And you'd say, okay, well, these ones don't look like they're overly big anyway, so why would you go even smaller? Well, a little bit of backstory on that, and why we call them the Arrowhead Minis is because if you look at my standard size Arrowhead that I make for hunting, is what we normally make if you're familiar with those, and you've probably seen me make a bunch if you've been following my channel. That size spall fits this Arrowhead a lot better than the original size, which requires a lot more material to be removed. So what I found was, yes, these are great for beginners and learning how to nap, and yeah, you can make a good sharp hunting point out of them, there's no doubt about it. But what I found is every time that I wanted to make one out of a KnapEasy spall, I had to remove a lot of material, and it just took too much time. So I will tell you this, and then we'll get on to the story, is that I'm just running a test to see if other people want them. I know I like them, and my good buddy Joe McConnell, that's kind of what he's been waiting for, because he agrees with me, and many of you probably do as well if you've been working it and you're just making hunting points. The original size spalls are actually just too big, but again, they're great for learning because it gives you a lot more material to work around and learn to reduce. But if you're getting like me to where, hey, I just want to make hunting points out of these and I want to make them faster and less material, less time, then the minis might be the way to go. Now, as far as like a price value, there's probably not going to be much, if any, price difference, because the man hour and machine power and all that to make the mini is about the same as it is to do the original size. So the value isn't in it being in a smaller size and less material, but rather the value is if you're just going to make arrowheads, these are already closer to arrowhead dimensions, so it's less time and less material that needs removed. So if you like those, like I said, they're available at Hunt Primitive. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab one and start working it into a hunting point while I tell you the story. And as all the napping videos go, and of course if I don't mention it, then somebody asks, and I wish I would have. If it just happens to be your first time joining the channel and first time watching me nap, and you're wanting to learn how to flint nap, we've got all the tools, material, KnapEasy, natural rock, anything that you would want at huntprimitive.com. And also we've got the flint napping for beginners videos. There's a few of them, and really there's several that you can get started in, and they've taught a lot of people how to become good flint nappers very quickly, and you can watch those on YouTube. Just look for the thumbnail that I'm putting up on the screen, and you can write that down somewhere and then go hunt for it after you watch this video if you want. So like I said, everything you want is at huntprimitive.com, and we got plenty of stuff to teach you, and that's why I'm not going to be showing you every single hit, because this isn't a tutorial as much as it's going to be a story and a nap. Okay, but I will usually stop and show you at least some problem spots that I'm working with or whatever. We break up the story a little bit, and otherwise you're going to work this the same exact way that you work the bigger spalls, which is reduce the concavity in the bottom side first, smooth that out, and then flip it over, and you can run some of these ridges. But as you can see, it's already down a lot thinner, so there's going to be a lot less work involved in these. So that's why I'm liking them anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and hit this, and then I'm going to get started on this crazy story that I still think back and laugh at, but back then I didn't think it was very funny. And I said I always thought that, and when I told my dad about it, he was, just kind of thinking I was telling stories, because I was still pretty young, I think I was 16 maybe, and we were deer hunting down in South Florida on a piece of land owned by the Lightsey Cattle Company. It wasn't the island that they had, but part of the mainland, and they'd run some deer hunts. And so this was back before I was, seriously bow hunting anyway. Was doing a little bit of bow hunting, if you remember prior stories, but this was a gun hunt, and so I had a 30-06 sitting over my lap. They dropped me off, and it's on like a winter day. I want to say probably early January, if I had to take a guess or remember, and kind of chilly, and it had been raining. Like the whole weekend was wet. Just the whole dang weekend was just one of those wet, rainy kind of weekends. So that made it a little bit miserable. But the very first evening, they dropped me off at a tree stand that was overlooking a feeder. And so then, of course, the hope was that hogs or a deer would come in and I'd be able to shoot it. And, of course, that's what hunting is. So I get up in this tree stand, which is a ladder stand, a homemade ladder stand, and it's made out of square aluminum tubing. And if you're familiar with like what screen enclosures are made from or used to be made from, it was that same material. So it's the square, boxy, long square pipes of aluminum that they would make those screen enclosures from. And at the top of it, they had screwed on a piece of plywood. And then on top of the plywood, they put carpet down on it. And it wasn't very big, not much bigger than the chair I'm sitting on. And I was just sitting on the platform, which kind of sucked anyway because, and I would say it was a little bit wider because I remember sitting and I could see, it must have been a little over, about 2 foot wide or so, because I did have some space, which will be important later as to why. But I'm sitting on that carpet, and that carpet was kind of wet anyway. It wasn't soaked yet, but it was wet, and I was kind of annoyed with that. And I remember sitting here thinking, going, this carpet would be nice if it was dry. But now that it's wet, it kind of sucks to sit on. And as the evenings carrying on, I kept hearing this rustling sound. And I cannot figure out what this rustling sound is or where it's coming from. And I'm kind of looking around. I just keep hearing this rustle, rustle, rustle. I just cannot figure it out. And I'm looking around behind me. I just cannot pinpoint this sound because it's very faint. And then all of a sudden I look down and that carpet next to me starts to move a little bit. And I'm like, oh no, there's something under this. And I'm thinking like it's this big palmetto bug or something like that. So I'm watching, and I was like, that makes sense. That's what's rustling around. And the carpet didn't lay flat. It was real wonky kind of carpet anyway. And where I was sitting, it's not like it was wrapped around really good. It just flapped like shag carpet. I don't know. But anyway, I'm sitting here now. I start watching it move. Well, it starts to move out towards the end of the platform. And I'm sitting here imagining, just ready any second to see this big palmetto bug climb up and over. And so I'm just expecting this big, nasty, stinking thing. So I'm thinking as soon as it comes out, I'm going to flick it off and then be done with it. So I'm watching it go all the way under the carpet, and I could hear it rustling, and it's just the carpet's moving. It's getting closer, and it pokes its head out, and be darned if it wasn't the head of a snake. And I was getting ready to swat it. Well, back then, I was not not real good on snake ID. I mean, I knew what a rattlesnake was. You know, that's pretty easy to identify that. And I knew what a black snake was. But outside of that, I couldn't really tell you much about snake identification. And, you know, not expecting a snake to just pop out basically right next to my leg. I wasn't exactly thinking too clearly about it anyway, but it was reddish orange with patterns on it, and all I could think of in my head was that maybe it's copperhead, but I didn't know. Didn't really know what a copperhead looked like, but it had that, you know, orangey copper color or something, which we don't have copperheads really in South Florida anyway. But, you know, still not knowing that, and I didn't know if it was venomous or not. And either way, I didn't particularly want to find out. Well, the problem was, no sooner did it stick its head out that more of its body came out. Well, it didn't just stay like that. The dang thing flopped right over top of my leg. And I'm holding the gun like this, and it was getting ready to swat, you know what it was, but I've got my hand up, you know, on the gun. I don't know exactly where it is. And this snake's crawling right across me. Well, of course, I'm warm. It was probably in there, you know, hibernating up a little bit and preparing to. And me being warm probably transferred some heat into that carpet where it was staying, and it kind of livened up a little bit. And so here it is, flopped over my leg, but it's just kind of hanging out. But like I said, nowadays I look back and I know it was just a corn snake, you know, red rat snake, just a corn snake. But I didn't know that at the time, and I had all these ideas running through my head. Nowadays, honestly, even if it was a venomous snake, I'd probably wait till I had time, and I would just have confidence, and I'd just grab it by the head, hold it out, and throw it, be done with it. But still being kind of younger, I was really questioning to myself what I'm going to do. Well, eventually it crawled back over and stuck its head back over the edge of the platform, and a lot of its body was still underneath, like back half of its body was still underneath the carpet. It's like it just kind of come out, but its whole body hadn't come out yet. And I had considered picking my gun up and trying to put the barrel here and shoot the thing with a 30-06. Could you imagine that mess? And I was like, that just sounds like a terrible idea. And I was like, and even if I do that, it could bite me by the time I got the gun up. And I was like, that's probably not going to work. So I'm just trying to be patient and figure out, what am I going to do? How do I get out of this tree stand? How do I get rid of this snake? And then it started to turn around and go behind me. And I'm like, oh no, now I'm not going to be able to hardly watch it. Well, it got to the end of the back of the tree stand, which would have been back here, and the square tubing was open. And this is crazy that I got to even watch. It's crazy enough that that happened, okay? But then what was fascinating is the snake stuck its head right in that square tubing, and the rest of its body came out, and it slithered right down in that tubing, and as it did it, it shed its skin right next to me. And it's like, you can't, like I said, that sounds crazy enough just to have the snake do that. Then the fact that it shed its skin and left its shed skin right, it like caught it on the end of that tubing and went in. And when it went in that tube and I didn't wait for it to come back out, I bailed out of that tree stand. I was like, I am out of here. I will never sit in that thing again. And I sure as heck told myself I would never get into a tree stand that had carpet on it either, for that matter. So, in any event, I bailed out of the tree stand, so I was at least out of that. Watched this snake shed its skin right next to me after it had been flopped over my leg. And now I'm down on the ground. Well, I got down in Florida here, we've got these great big live oak trees, and over towards where the feeder was are some of these big live oaks that they hang the feeders from. So I went and just sat down next to one of the live oaks. Well, about that time too, a storm started to roll in. So it's already starting to thunder at like a little bit of distance. And I'm like, well, I'm kind of glad that I'm not up in that tree stand anyway. A metal tree stand in a big pine tree isn't exactly where you want to be in a thunderstorm. But the storm's on its way, but it's not here yet. And I'm trying to remember if the turkeys happened first or if the raccoon happened first. I can't remember now, but I'll tell you, it doesn't matter. I'll just pick one or the other. But I'm sitting there. I'm pretty sure that it was the turkeys that happened first. So as I'm sitting there and I can hear the storm getting a lot closer, I can hear something walking around in the woods coming up to the feeder. And so I'm thinking, oh man, there's probably a deer or hogs or something coming in. Well, here some turkeys came in, and they were milling around under the feeder. And then all of a sudden, lightning went, I mean, cracked. Like, it was really close. Like, really close. A big boom. It was only lightly raining. It wasn't like a big storm at the time. It was lightly raining. And it just went boom. And I jumped. The turkeys scattered. Well, the one starts running and takes flight right in front of me. I mean, just about beating me with its wings, flying over top of me. I mean, buzzing my head, just about run me over. I guess they didn't know I was sitting there at that tree, and I was kind of off to the side of the tree. Well, the thing actually hits the tree that I'm sitting. It just freaks out, flies, jumps up, hits the tree, falls down next to me, gets up and runs. And I'm like, this is the craziest night. What the heck is going on? So now I'm rattled anyway, because now it starts popping lightning everywhere. The turkey's done run off. The snake thing already had me kind of rattled. And I'm ended up watching a deer out in the field, but it was a doe, and we were only allowed to shoot bucks. And so I'm watching it, just trying to paint antlers on that thing, or hoping that a buck comes out. But anyway, at least did get to see some deer. And as I'm watching this deer, I look out of the corner of my eye, and here comes a raccoon coming up to where the feeder is. Well, it doesn't see me either, and I'm sitting still at the base of this big live oak tree. Well, a lot of times when raccoons come into feeders, which I didn't know at the time, they don't come in the wide open. They like to be around the bases of those big trees, because that's it's kind of a safety thing for them. If there's something there that they don't like, they can dart up those trees, pretty quickly. So here I'm sitting next to this tree, and this raccoon doesn't see me. It comes around the other side of the tree. It, like, point blank, it comes around, and when it sees me, of course, it comes out of its skin. Well, I just thought that it would see me and run. Nope, it did the whole spooky cat stand up real tall, and its hair all bristled up, and it just roared at me. And of course, being now it wouldn't bother me as much, but being a kid scared the daylights out of me, so I start yelling at it, back, and kicking at it, and it takes off running. And I remember it was just about that time I got up, and of course now the deer's running off too, and I got up and just being like, what the heck is going on around here? And all I wanted to do was leave, but it was popping lightning, and I didn't want to go out into the pasture, so I was like, I don't even want to be by this feeder anymore, because things are coming here, and I've had enough. There's too much going on, and I just like hung out on the edge of it, just waiting for them to come pick me back up so I could just go back home. And I tell you, I did not want to go back to that stand or feeder at all after that. But to have that much happen all in one night, to be that close, having a raccoon there, the turkeys roosting and busting up and flying next to me, and have that snake crawl over me and shed its skin. I mean, that's the kind of story that somebody makes up, and just to tell one of those big tall tales. But it's funny because every bit of it is true. And like I said, I don't remember if the raccoon happened before or after. It must have happened after, because it was carrying on. So I don't think the turkeys would have come in after that. And it was getting pretty dark, so that does kind of make sense. I know the book's in order, whatever's written there, but that's been 10 years since I wrote it, and And I haven't actually thought about that story too much until I started thinking about stories to tell you guys while napping. But anyway, that was the craziest night that I ever had. See, don't have a whole lot of time invested in this. Of course, I'm not napping overly fast anyway because I'm thinking and telling you guys stories. But so the rest of that weekend didn't really get any less weird, though. We were staying in this little hunting lodge cabin thing that they would run a generator, you know, for a little while, you know, for lights and stuff like that. But I mean, it was a one-room hunting cabin with some bunk beds in it, and the bathroom was an outhouse, and it was pretty rough. And I remember not really wanting to use that. It was just another memory of it. And it was just like a big piece of pipe coming out of the ground, and that was it. And but I remember going out the next day, because we were only there for a weekend. Ended up going out the next day with my dad, but at this time it's raining and cold too. And I remember belly crawling across the pasture with the gun, trying to get close to a little buck that was out feeding in the pasture. And I mean cold, and just slogging through on your belly and elbows, trying to get close enough to shoot at this deer, which I did get close enough and missed it. I couldn't tell you now how far it was, but it was a far enough shot. But yeah, it just didn't work out real good. I went through a streak like that about that age where I think I had more confidence than I should have, and just wasn't shooting very well at all. I'm kind of got a little bit of a mess here. I didn't do a great job thinning it out. I was too busy talking and not paying attention. That happens. Oh, it's funny, you know. I always tell folks that, and others agree as well that do videos. I've talked to them. They're like, I'm a much better napper when I'm just doing my thing, but then when you're talking to somebody, like hanging around a campfire talking and napping, or if you're doing a video, you kind of get lost in what you're saying, and it's a distraction, and you end up not doing nearly as nice of work as you do when you're just kind of by yourself. So that's probably why my work overall usually looks a little bit better in the pictures than it does whenever I show you guys what I'm up to, because I'm usually not preparing stuff properly while I'm talking. But anyway, yeah, so I didn't get, and ended up not getting a deer. I did have that opportunity, but you know, at that age there was something about me that I thought that I was, you know, a better shot or something than I actually was, and probably wasn't aiming properly. And who knows with that old rifle too, if there was anything going on with that. Or I just remember putting the crosshairs on it and shooting it like pretty darn quick, like a rushed shot, like I was worried about it leaving, and just not doing what you're supposed to be doing as far as, you know, taking your time and hunting. But sometimes that happens to us when we're younger or more inexperienced. You know, I've watched my own kids do it and watched other people do it, and that's all about hunting, is you just learning to slow down a little bit. So here we're driving indirect. We're driving some of these flakes across this now, thinning her out pretty drastically. There we go. Oh, you're gonna hear some little motorcycle buzzing, I bet, going by. It's just after Christmas here, and the little neighbor girl down the road got a I don't know, it's like a little four-wheeler with like a moped weed whacker engine or something on it, and she's been riding it all around, so having fun, which there's nothing wrong with that. But you're probably going to hear buzzing by before too long. But no, I didn't get a deer that trip. Some other guys were bow hunting, and they both shot nice bucks. So there was definitely some stuff going on there. It just wasn't my turn to get one. And funny enough, my dad shot. He was riding on a four-wheeler with one of the guys that we knew, Moby, and they came up to a clearing, and stopped a four-wheeler and looked, and there was a bobcat laying down under the tree, just laying there. So he just slid the gun up just kind of real quick, laid it over Bobby's shoulder, and ended up shooting that bobcat. And that's funny that bobcat skin is still hanging. He's done passed away now. He's for quite a few years, but my mother still has a lot of his mounts and stuff hanging up in the house, and he's got a nice rug, bobcat rug that you hang on the wall, you know, where the head's mounted, and then it's got like felt. It's got green felt around it, and it's up hanging on the wall. And I suppose someday I'm gonna have to take over possession of that. I ended up shooting a bobcat a couple years after that when I was rifle hunting. Shot the dang thing at about 10 yards. They come walking out during a deer hunt and shot it and pinned it there. It's the only bobcat I've ever shot. I've shot at a couple with my bow, but they sure are quick. And I mean, they can jump out of the way of an arrow, that's for sure. Same with coyotes. But yeah, always have kind of wanted to get a bobcat, but I don't something about, you know, getting one with my bow, I mean, but I don't have the skin of the one that I shot anymore, because when we were in Montana, I had a rug made as well out of mine, and it was hanging up on the wall. It was one of my most prized possessions, honestly. And when we came down for the holidays, the one year we drove down, a pack rat ate through the log cabin and took up residence in the house while we were gone, and chewed up a bunch of my deer heads and chewed holes all through that bobcat rug, and just absolutely broke my heart. But I've been looking to get another one, but I don't really care to get one just to get one, you know, and I don't need to shoot one with a rifle or anything. I'd like to shoot one with my bow sometime, but I don't feel the need to go like on a actual predator hunt or running them with hounds or anything like that. All sounds fun, but to me it's like I just kind of want to be out there hunting and then have one come by and actually get the arrow in it and shoot it. And that's, you know, spotting and stalking, that gets real tough. I've definitely seen some cats. There's quite a few cats in Florida, but they oftentimes see you about the same time, or they come by already running or chasing something. I've had them chase rabbits by me before. One time on public land hunting, was sitting there and had, all of a sudden I heard this commotion coming, and a rabbit buzzed right by me, and I was like, what the heck's that rabbit doing? And then all of a sudden a cat was right behind it. Couldn't have been more than 5 or 6 feet from me. I mean, just buzzed right by me. And I'm sitting there bow hunting and was standing up against a tree. Had no idea what was happening, but it just ran by that quick. That's kind of a cool memory as well. But yeah, maybe one day I'll be out there. I suppose if I sat in tree stands, you know, you'd stand a better chance of one coming by. You know, they come by you then. But spotting and stalking around, that's kind of like with coyotes. That's real tough, because when you're spotting and stalking, they generally see you at the same time or before that you see them, because they're on the hunt too, and they're better at it. Except in that last story, I told you about the opportunity there in Brown Coulee in the other episode, where I stalked up and I saw that one and shot at it. Didn't get it, but I've had a couple opportunities. One down at Vaston's that I was stalking around and I could see it coming down the road, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna get this one. So I had the bow up and ready, and just as it was coming around the corner, I was already drawing, and I was like, as soon as it shows up, I'm releasing that arrow. And I mean, it didn't stick its head out from around that palmetto for a split second, saw me and was gone. I was the fastest. It was like coming in on camera, like gone, just that fast. I'm like, how did that thing? I didn't even have time to release the arrow, and it was off and running. But the little rascals are wily, that's for sure. And those cats are like that too. I guess the cats can be a little bit more bold or dumb. I had one time when I was driving down there at Vaston's, crossed the road right in front of me and then stopped on the side of the road. And I opened the truck door and it sat there, and I'm like, I can't exactly grab my bow and shoot it from the truck, and it's not going to let me get out. But yeah, I'd sure like to get one with my bow though. That would be fun, and perhaps one day it'll happen again. You can see here we're getting down. Got a nice nice Arrowhead preform. It's pretty well ready to do the final pressure flaking, notching. I gotta trim it down just a tiny bit more, but we'll notch it and pressure flake it out and clean it up the rest of the day. But I'll tell you what though, I think you guys have seen me finish these out, and I'm kind of out of the story, so I'll probably just stop right here. Like I said, you guys have seen this, and you guys got the story for the day. That turned out really good. And remember, if you want to try them out, it didn't take as long. I mean, obviously I could run through it quite a bit faster if I wasn't chatting and making mistakes. But they'll definitely save you time if that's what you want to make your arrowheads from. And like I said, I don't think you need to see me do the finish work on it. You guys have seen that enough. So anyway, thanks for following along. And hey, aside from remembering the tools and the material at Hunt Primitive, reminder, if you haven't heard, we've got some really cool projects coming up this year. I'm putting together a series, a video series. It'll come out at the end of 2026, if I had to take a guess, maybe the beginning of 2027. But be following along, because I'm going to drop you little hints along the way of some of the stuff that's going, but on my social media stuff too, you know, the Hunt Primitive or the Gills Primitive Archery and Hunt Primitive on Facebook, always dropping photos of what's going on. And you'll get a little bit of insider information, I bet, on some of these story and a nap videos. I'll probably tell you a little bit of stuff that's going on, but lots of cool projects coming. Probably more than likely one, I would say one for sure bison, but we're probably looking at 2, possibly 3 bison projects this year, just knocking a whole bunch of stuff out. And I'm taking a trip here soon, so be following along. There's going to be a lot of cool hunts with some experimental archaeology stuff mixed in. And well, anyway, there's that. So all right, we'll catch you on another one.